Hey guys, it's ETA Prime back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the all-new Neo-Geo Arcade Stick Pro. Now this is a standalone unit that comes preloaded with 20 Neo-Geo Fighting games, and if you're not into Neo-Geo Fighting games, you'll probably want to skip this one because that's all that's pre-installed here. It's not like the Neo-Geo Minis with a couple metal slugs here and there. This is all dedicated to fighting. So retail on this unit is $129. You can actually pre-order it right now on Amazon. It releases on November 22nd, which is coming up soon, but I was able to get my hands on an early unit to take a look at this thing. So even though this is its own standalone console / arcade stick, you can plug in extra controllers like the Neo-Geo Mini controllers or the Neo-Geo Mini itself. There are some USB Type-C ports on the front here, so you can use those as controllers, or you can go vice versa with it and use this as a controller for your Neo-Geo Mini. So right out of the box, this thing actually has a lot of heft to it. I'm sure there's a metal plate in the bottom here, but the plastic itself doesn't feel like it's going to crack anytime soon. The top layer will not flex, and the only way this thing's going to get broken is if you throw it across a room. Build quality on this thing was something that I'm worried about, given that it's a all-plastic unit, but overall, it seems really solid. So inside of the box, you're obviously going to receive the Neo-Geo Arcade Stick Pro, a USB Type-C to full-size USB 2.0 cable for powering the unit, user manual, rubber feet that you can install on the arcade stick itself so it doesn't slide around on the table, and a USB Type-C to full-size female USB 2.0 adapter for connecting different peripherals like the Neo-Geo Mini or controllers. So the whole stick itself is actually set up pretty nicely. On the rear we have a USB Type-C for powering the arcade stick itself, full-size HDMI output, and a full-size USB 2.0 port for upgrading the firmware. On the front, we have two USB Type-C ports for plugging in the Neo-Geo Mini controllers, and a 3.5mm audio jack. Over on the right-hand side, we have a few extra buttons. Turbo, Options, Select, Start. We have the on and off switch plus a mode button set to 1, 2, and 3. This mode button will be used if you want to plug this into a Neo-Geo Mini with the provided USB cable that's actually tethered to the unit inside of the bottom of the arcade stick. So overall, I really like the design and coloring choices of this arcade stick. The included stick itself feels pretty decent, and the buttons aren't top of the line, but they do work, and I'm pretty sure there's some type of kind of Sanwa clone, and these might be able to be changed out. I will be doing a teardown by the end of this video so we can take a look at the internals. So it's a 4-way gate included with the stick itself, and the micro switches feel pretty good. I don't know what they're using in here, but like I mentioned, we will be doing a teardown. As for the buttons, I'm pretty sure they're not using the quiet Sanwas. These are some type of clone, but they can probably be changed out very easily. So as for the 20 preloaded games, we have the King of Fighters 95, 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2002, Fatal Fury Special, Fatal Fury 3, Mark of the Wolves, Samurai Shodown 2, 3, 4, 5 Special, Art of Fighting, World Heroes 2, World Heroes 2 Jet, World Heroes 2 Perfect, Ninja Masters, The Last Blade 2, and KIZUNA Encounters. To my surprise, there's actually some decent settings in here. If we go down to the little settings icon, we can enter the options menu. We have language, screen size. This will allow us to set it to 4:3, 16:9, and also change the overscan. Next on the list is quality setting, smooth rendering, perfect scaling, transverse scan lines, longitudinal scan lines, and 45-degree scan lines. Headset volume, and finally system. Now this will allow us to update the firmware, and I'm not sure if they're going to be adding games down the road. That would be pretty awesome. And I personally wish they would have thrown at least one metal slug in here, but I understand they wanted to set this up as a fight stick, and that's exactly what it is. So obviously with the YouTube video compression, this is going to be kind of a hard comparison here. I'll tell you right off the bat, I personally love the pixel scaling option, and really nothing's going to beat an original CRT or even some of the awesome scan lines built into RetroArch, but for a standalone console, they actually did a pretty decent job here. With the smooth scaling option, it kind of crops the image a little bit. This isn't edited in any way. It crops it just a tiny bit and blurs out the pixels. Now, some people might be into this, but I'll probably never use this setting here. The transverse scan line setting also looks pretty decent, and it'll also really come down to the display you're using with this unit. I was running this on a 50-inch television, and it was very noticeable when I went to the transverse scan lines, longitudinal, or 45-degree. But personally, if they're not real scan lines, I try to stay away from them, and pixel scaling is my go-to option when it comes to this Neo-Geo Arcade Stick Pro. So overall, I like the interface here. I kind of wish we could customize that background color, but it's pretty quick and it definitely loads up the games faster than the Neo Geo Mini did, which makes me suspect that they're using a higher end CPU in here, which makes sense since they've already done the Neo Geo Mini. They can source better parts for around the same price. So I did want to test out a few games here, and I used this smaller portable monitor so we could see the stick and the screen at the same time instead of using that big 50-inch. But I'm going to go ahead and get into a little bit of gameplay, then we'll do a teardown, and I'll give you my initial impressions on this stick. So it's pretty responsive, and I personally don't have any trouble at all with this stick or buttons here. They did a pretty good job with this. Now, it would be nice if they used real hap sticks or Sanwa and Sanwa buttons, but that would bring the cost way up, and I know they're trying to keep it cheaper. But you really shouldn't have any trouble with what's pre-installed here. So we're going to go ahead and move over to the teardown real quick. I've taken all the screws and plugs out of the bottom, and the top will just lift right off here. You will have to move the included or attached USB cable out of the way. Right off the bat, got a really nice hefty metal plate in the bottom here. I was sure they had this, feeling the weight of this whole unit. It actually weighs a lot more than you would expect it to. And if you install those included rubber pads, this thing's not going to slide around on the table at all. I personally like playing on the table, but I know some people will set this in their lap. So here we are with the guts. The buttons look like they can be easily replaced. They're not soldered, so you can unplug them pretty easily, and I'm pretty sure some Sanwas would snap right in here perfectly, and I'll test that out by the end. Unfortunately, this looks like a proprietary stick, so you wouldn't be able to replace this easily. With some modifications you could. As you can see, it does have that 4-way gate here. But the switches inside of here do feel pretty decent. It looks like it's held together with 4 screws, and I'll pull this top off in a second so we can see what switches they're using. But like I mentioned, it actually functions quite well like it sits. And finally, the main board. It does have shielding on it, but I can pull this off so we can see what CPU they're using. With the speed of the UI and the boot time, I got a good feeling that this is an upgraded chip over the Neo Geo Mini. So before we move into the CPU specs, I just wanted to give you a quick look here. On the right, we have the included buttons, and on the left, we have a real Sanwa quiet button. And I'm glad they added connectors instead of soldering this directly, because these Sanwas will fit directly in here. And as for the buttons that come pre-installed, I'm pretty sure they're some type of Zippy brand. But if you ever needed to replace them or you just want to upgrade, it's definitely easy enough. So obviously I also wanted to take a look at the stock stick, and I pulled the bottom plate off and noticed it's using zippy switches. Now the stick that's in here has its own little proprietary mounting system, but there are extra mounting holes located in the case itself. I personally couldn't come up or think of a drop-in replacement for this, but right when I was about to finish this video up, I got a notification on YouTube. Scarlet Sprites just posted a video on a perfect drop-in replacement joystick for this, and if you're not familiar with Scarlet Sprites, he's a Neo Geo madman. He does everything Neo Geo, and I'm going to link you to that video and his channel. So if you're already into Neo Geo, you probably know who Scarlet Sprites is. If you're looking to get into Neo Geo, or you just love these old school arcade games, check his channel out. Make sure you subscribe because he's got some premium content over there. And to tell you the truth, his collection actually makes me super jelly. He's got a full-size MVS cabinet. I'm pretty sure he owns all the carts. He does a lot of AES stuff. So if you're into Neo Geo or you want to get into it, definitely check his channel out. And finally, onto the CPU. This is using the Actions ATM 7051H. In the original Neo Geo Mini, they were using the Actions ATM 7013, which was a 1.2 GHz single-core processor. Luckily, this has been upgraded. From all the information I can find on the 7031, it's a 1.3 GHz quad-core chip that comes in some really cheap tablets from China, but it does handle this Neo Geo UI and games quite well. We also have 1 GB of flash storage, so with everything pre-installed on it, we probably have around 400 to 500 megs left on here, and if adding games is a possibility down the road, we can add a few more here. And finally, the RAM. 256 megabytes DDR3, which is plenty for running these games. So overall, it's not top of the line specs. We'll probably never see like RetroArch or something running on here, but possibly in the future we will be able to add our own games. So my overall first impressions, I personally really like the performance coming out of this thing. Buttons and sticks are pretty decent. The buttons are easily upgraded like you saw. And thanks to Scarlet Sprites, we now know we can purchase a drop-in stick for this thing. A quad-core 1.3 GHz A9 ARM chip, 1 gig of flash storage, and 256 megabytes of RAM. I like that they added 5 different scaling options. Pixel scaling is the way to go for me, but if you like those fake scan lines, they don't look bad at all. But keep in mind, it will really depend on the display you're using when you're running this unit. The game selection is great if you're into Neo-Geo Fighting games. Now, I really do wish they would have added 1 or 2 side-scrollers like Magician Lord or maybe some Metal Slug on here just to keep everybody happy, but overall, this is a fight stick, and that's what they really went with. The price point is set at $130. It is up for pre-order on Amazon. I will leave some links in case you're interested in picking one of these up. It doesn't release until November 22nd, but that's coming up really soon as of making this video. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I really appreciate you watching. If you have any questions or you want to see anything else running on this unit, just let me know in the comments below. And if we get some decent firmware upgrades or added games, I will be doing another video. But like always, thanks for watching.